It's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean. We have Spiggs 18 or Anthony. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and subscribe to us over on YouTube. It is a great help for our channel, and we really appreciate all the support we've gotten thus far. But without further ado, Dean, what are we doing here tonight?
Oh, well, you know, it's another one of those good nights. We're going to do a ranking. We're going to see just what all of these decks are about, you know, and is it a must-have or something you can do without? But we're going to talk about it. We're going to rank it based on our ideas of what we think the decks are all about, and we're also going to take audience feedback. And without further ado, I'm going to toss it to Ant so he can make our announcements for the night, and we're going to get in it.
Hey, before I even get into announcements, yes, we haven't done a ranking show in so long. I'm excited to do this. And this idea came from Facebook. I was on the Cypher Unlimited Facebook group, and there was a great conversation being had of which deck should someone buy. And I thought it would be a great idea to revisit our ranking video. So this is why I suggested we do a ranking of all the decks. And like Dean said, it's the three of us get a vote, and the chat absolutely gets a vote, like in all other videos. So it's 4 votes that count, and we'll tabulate all 4 of those votes, and then we'll decide on what the actual grade is for each particular deck. We are not using. I know Invisible Sun have decks, and No Thank You Evil have decks, but we're sticking to strictly games by MCG that use the Cypher system. So that means Numenera, the Strange, all the white books, the core Cypher system rule set. And I think we will all agree that Sue deck is a top notch. So, but for the purpose of this video, we're not using any of the Invisible Sun decks or any of the No Thank You Evil decks. A quick announcement: we had that meme competition in conjunction with Monte Cook Games. It went off fantastic. Kate was absolutely ecstatic with the turnout of not only the memes that were given to her and all the prize winners, that they decided to run it back and to actually offer a prize every month. I'm not sure from Kate whether or not they're going to give a theme, but keep on going back. It's a monthly prize, right? What's the figure for?
Quarterly.
Oh, quarterly prize. I'm sorry. So 4 times a year, they're going to issue another $100 gift card to the MCG shop. So that is freaking awesome. So we're going to open up the meme channel again on the Cypher Unlimited Discord. If you're watching this on Twitch or YouTube and you haven't joined the Cypher Unlimited Discord, please do. It's an opportunity to win a cool prize from MCG, and we're just so thankful for them to entrusting us to allow to keep this meme competition going, because I thought it was hella fun, and there were some really cool memes that won and really cool memes that didn't win. So yeah, go to Cypher Unlimited Discord and put your meme in the contest, and you got to be in it to win it, y'all.
Exactly.
So chat, Al's gonna just randomly pick a deck and we'll discuss it. Al or Dean, what do you guys want to break down our ranking system? I see you have 5 tiers.
This is all on me. I didn't customize these. It's just typical S to D ranking. So S being the best, A being pretty damn good, and so on and so forth. With D being the worst, obviously. Yeah, should be pretty straightforward.
One last thing before you get started. I know there's multiple XP decks, and yes, not all XP decks are created the same. So you're gonna get an XP deck, and in those cases, we'll judge it on the artwork and how cool it looks. So if you're a Numenera fan, of course, you're gonna want to put the Numenera deck with the cool artwork above the generic XP deck. But there are several XP decks, and I personally think some are cooler than others, and we'll discuss that when they come up.
All right, so let's get the ball rolling. Right?
Okay.
So pick one at random. Let's go with this blue one here. I think this is a creature deck. Can y'all identify that from a distance? But I'm pretty sure that is a Numenera creature deck. I'll zoom in a little bit here. Yep. Definitely what it is. Me personally, creatures are always near the top for me. Like, those are always useful. me personally, it's not S tier because I like to create my own. And that's literally the only reason. So I would put creature stuff at A, B, but I know it's like an SA for most people. But I'll put it at A for now while we discuss it.
Yeah. For me, I agree with you, Al. That creature decks are definitely. Oh, actually, I know you said A, B, but I think the SA.
That's why I said most people think SA.
Yeah.
Me personally, BA. But
The
yeah.
reason being why is because part of my criteria is how useful this deck is in prep and how useful this deck is in actual gameplay. And all the creature decks are useful in both formats and both criteria. So me personally, I would always put a creature deck either S or A tier. I'm gonna put this in A because it's one of the older creature decks, and I just think that the newer ones are just visually better looking and are formatted a little bit better. But the Numenera, it has all the traditional Numenera creatures in it. It's a must-have if you play Numenera. So I'm gonna put it in the A tier for me personally.
I'll say this about creature decks. Creature decks are always going to be pretty high up on the list just because they're normally 100 creatures in a deck. That's 100 creatures. That's just alleviates having to turn pages, or consult your book, because the nice thing about it is it does have the pertinent information that you need. It may not have all of the lore or the ecology of the creature, but it does have stat blocks and so on and so forth, and the basic information that's needed. So I absolutely agree with you guys that it falls in that SAB area because it just is. They're useful. They're extremely useful, and I mean the nice thing about it is when you're, like Anthony's saying, when you're doing your prep and so on and so forth, these 10 creatures, they're right there. They're just sitting right there. You don't have to open a book. You don't have to search for anything. And then the fact that you got the rest of the deck, if you need a randomized one, something, you can just real quick shuffle through. So yeah, expediency and just.
But what's your rank, Dean?
I feel the same way. It's going to be S or A.
So which one is it, S or A? What's your rank? A?
Okay, wait a minute. What is it? S is
S is the best of the best.
I'm gonna go with an A. I'll go with an A.
And I will say this too, just as a piggyback before we move on to the next one. Another reason this is a setting specific one. This is very specific. Like you have to be playing Numenera to use this one. That's not to say you can't reflavor it for other things, but it's made specifically for Numenera. And you know us, we're all about that versatility.
What about chat? What does chat rank the Numenera creature deck, our first deck of the night? Everybody in chat is able to post a vote. We'll take the average.
These pictures are so tiny.
Yeah, make it a little bigger, Al. Drew said A.
Yeah, I think A is pretty good for this one.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you made a point. That's an actual excellent point, Al. That is setting specific. Does in a little bit, reduce its usefulness unless you just don't care. I agree.
And said an A. So I think the consensus for the Numenera creature deck is an A. One other thing I was gonna say that Dean brought up that I thought was a good point. With any creature deck, right? You pull out the creatures you're using that you have specifically designed for your adventure, but that doesn't mean that the deck is done. Now, if you need a random encounter or you need an extra baddie to throw in a specific scene, you can just randomly pull a card and make it work. And like with all the other creature decks, all the information is on one side and an image of the creatures on the other. So you could visually look at a card and just ignore the stats in the back and come out with your own version, or vice versa. Look at the stats and reflavor those stats for whatever creature you have in mind. So it's useful in many different ways, especially with Numenera, which is, it's all about the weirdness and all about, the gonzo-ness of the setting. So it really works well with Numenera decks.
Yeah.
Moving along
I
here.
think that Numenera creature decks an A.
Yeah.
It's an A. I would say an A.
Did y'all want to pick one, or did you want me to keep picking at random?
Just you go ahead. You
I think I random.
All right. Well, mostly random. We'll go with the translation deck.
Oh,
We'll
the
go into
strange
another
translation deck.
specific one. So I will say, I'll be upfront with this. I don't know much about this deck. Maybe y'all can expand upon it more. But me, just right off the bat, going down to C, because I don't really play as Strange. I don't know anything about it. But yeah, you guys can clue me in.
D, you want to go first? You went last time.
Yeah, the translation deck is actually quite useful because it's useful for the strange. It can be useful for other things. Once again, if you are into,
You can explain what the translation deck is first.
it's a deck that basically allows for characters as far as translating through different realms in the strange. So it gives you like gateway information. It gives you randomized what can be taken through, so on and so forth. So yeah, it can be quite useful, but it's very much strange specific. So in that respect, but again, because Cypher System is kind of like the Strange 2.0, if you were running a game that dealt with translation and so on and so forth, it would be greatly useful. But it can also be useful in other aspects if you wanted to get, I guess you could say, world laws and so on and so forth, ideas for stuff like that. So I'm with Al. I'll put it at a C as well. Because of that reason, because it is so specific to the genre. I mean, to the setting.
I vote C as well. I think it can be useful outside of the strange in prep, maybe. But if we were specifically going, hey, how useful this is to the strange, it might be an A deck. But we're basing it on how useful it is into the Cypher system. So I'm definitely voting a C. And this is another one of the early decks. And one of the reasons you could tell it's an early deck is because it doesn't have much artwork. I think the later decks that we're gonna come to see, the imagery is a lot more provocative. This is just essentially the strange translation on one side and then the actual translation on the other. You're getting about 4 or 5 sentences. Extremely useful for the strange. Not a must-have, though, and not a must-have for your Cypher System collection if you want to collect decks and want to actually use them. So for that reason, I would definitely give it a C. It would be an A if you wanted to play the strange only, but unfortunately, that's not our ranking system for this.
I will say this though, just to give it another plus positive. This deck can also work well as inspiration for a Path of the Planebreaker. It's a very similar premise where you're world hopping, dimension hopping, whatever have you. You're not translating per se, but if the translation cards have the information about the world you're translating to, that would be great inspiration for a new dimension or plane or whatever to hop to in Planebreaker. So it does get a little plus on that for that.
So I think chat seems to agree with us on the C. Also, this is just an outside question since we actually here and chat can answer this as well. When you run a game, ideally, how many decks do you have with you? Like, what's your preferred amount of decks to carry with you to run a game?
Well, you asking the chat or are you asking us too?
I'm asking everyone.
Normally for me, it's maybe 2. I normally want a creature deck, and I probably get to take an intrusion deck with me a lot of times. But sometimes, you know what? There's also those rare occasions that you want the NPC decks. Those become quite useful too at times. That actually I might have to say 3 because when you think about the NPC deck can actually become it's useful across the board, both of them. Both NPC decks for that matter.
I'm a 4 deck kind of guy.
So for me, four, that's a lot. What you call it?
XP deck counts as a deck, yo.
The what deck?
XP card.
Oh yeah, true. I guess yeah. So I guess my two would go up to a three if we're talking like in-person game. But what I would say is, I don't take full decks with me, right? I skim them to see what fits well in my head for the game I'm running, and I make little stacks. So I might end up with a stack of like you said, like 4 different types of things, but it really amounts to like the size of maybe a deck or less. So I don't have as much bulk to carry around or worry about. But yeah, so I guess if you're counting individual decks used, I guess maybe 3 to 4, but amount of cards carried is actually about a deck size or less.
Yeah, I really, me personally, the decks that I always take with me, no matter what setting I'm running, I like the asset deck for sure. I like the Cypher or asset deck, mix them up depending on the genre. I love the NPC deck, and I just use it for a name randomizer if I don't need an NPC. Right, I take an XP deck, of course, and a creature deck. So that's usually my 4.
I mean, those are good ones. Those are always handy ones. Like, those are all around good. Like,
well, I love the asset deck for the simple fact that sometimes you want to give out a cipher that not necessarily a cipher, just a bonus, and the asset deck always works well for that.
Yeah,
I agree.
so I think we landed on a C for this one pretty solidly.
Yeah, and Chad agreed with us as well.
Yeah, it's very specific. So let's move on to a not specific one. Let's go with the GM Intrusion deck.
Oh, nice.
That's instantly an S. That's a super good deck. Wait, go to S, man. What the
The
hell?
new Monero one, right?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Let's
that's the
zoom
Monero
in.
one.
Oh,
That's
jeez.
Monero.
Still
I
good
know
though.
that.
Even though it's setting specific, the GM Intrusion stuff always quite good because you can always reflavor like if it's a setting specific thing that's happening. Like GM, like that's always good to have on the back burner.
Yeah.
I'm very stingy with my S's, so I'm voting A. I agree with you. It's a really great deck. Awesome to use. Me personally, I tend not to use the GM Intrusion deck. I like to make up my own. But I do agree that I think it's the most useful. It gets used a lot, just not by me personally. So my own personal thing, I think it's an A. It's definitely not below A, but I, you know, like if you watch any of our ranking videos, I'm very stingy with my S's. So me personally, I think that's an A. And I have specific ones that I want to rank S.
Dang, now you got me reconsidering my like we should drop it to an A now for that like that real stringent like I want to have those like high standards too. But like the only reason I would drop this to an A is because it's setting specific, but that's so easily reflavored.
Yeah, and in the defense of the intrusion deck, a lot of them are setting specific, but the intrusions are not setting specific. You can use the Numenera intrusion deck in other genres.
And I go with an A as well because I have a tendency not to carry an intrusion deck with me. Intrusion decks are the thing I use sitting around when I'm making a game. I'll just flip it over just to get in the rhythm of thinking of intrusions. And I use it a lot for that, but I do use it a lot. I just don't necessarily take them with me. Because I think intrusions for the most part, you know, are kind of organic. I feed off my players, you know, to come up with intrusions versus you know, trying to figure out a random intrusion.
Pat, what's your vote on intrusion decks? We have 1 S and 2 A so far.
I dropped it to A because it's average for us 3.
Yeah.
2 A's S drops it to A.
Yeah, vote to A.
Yeah, then we're definitely solidly in A. Which again I can agree with, even though I generally GM intrusions are one that I usually pick up like for my little pile. So not necessarily the Numenera one because I have the generic one just closer to me physically. So that's the one I use. But yeah,
Ken Hub brought up a great point that this intrusion deck is a A, but it's definitely a S for solo play.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I mean all the decks are basically S for solo play. Quite honestly. except the XP decks, but but literally for solo play, all these can just be pushed up to S.
Oh, you play solo play, then you had yourself an XP card. Yeah, I know you've been playing solo.
I tally it. I just tally it.
You should lift up a card and go, hey, you want to intrusion? Yes, I don't mind if I do.
That's funny. So you just take it from my other hand. Yes, thank you.
And then you have to roll. You have to roll to see if you take the intrusion or not. That's how you do it. Randomize it.
But yeah.
Random up the next one, Al.
Yeah, let's go with the Strange deck. It's just the one that caught my eye. I think it's just like you again. I don't know too much about the Strange stuff. It just says Strange deck. I don't know what that means. Oh, I'm trying to like read the card a little bit. So maybe Dean can enlighten us because you seem to be the encyclopedia.
The Strange deck is literally just that. It's a deck built for the Strange that allows you. Well, let me think. Hold on, because it's been so long since I touched the Strange deck. Let me look it up real quick. How about that?
Oh, the encyclopedia has failed us. But just from a quick glance, it looks like glimpses into strange stuff of the
Strange
world.
Basically it helps you generate your encounters, is what it is.
I was right.
It's been so long since I had to use it, but it helps you generate new stories, encounters. It helps you put a challenge behind it. There's 100 cards in the deck, so that deck for me gets an A as well because it really, it's something that I can use for any genre of game. If I need an inspiration, if I need to build an encounter on the fly, especially for a one shot or a demo day, the Strange deck is definitely handy, and it's funny now that we're doing this ranking thing, I'm actually going to reorganize my deck boxes so I have them, and be like, okay, this is the A box and this is the S box, So
I will say I'm going to stick with my C that I had initially put up there, only because like what you're saying would bump it up to a B for me. The only problem is the Strange labeling. That will scare people off from buying it or owning it or whatever because they don't like. Again, don't get me wrong, the Strange is very popular, but for people who don't play the Strange, they're going to look at that and say, why? Even though again you listed perfectly great reasons as to why. But yeah, I just think at a glance, it would be a skip for most.
Well, you see, that's something that what I would like to throw out there again to educate everybody. Once again, this is the argument Anthony and I go back all the time about Cypher System, the Cypher System rule book just being the Strange 2.0 without all the existential lore that goes with it. But the same thing with these cards, just like we were saying with the intrusion deck, even though it's Numenera intrusion deck, the story beats are not Strange specific. They're not connected to. And the really cool part about it is that, remembering now all of these cards have they have three ideas on each card, which is was a standard back in the early decks. If you know anything about the early decks, they always gave you like three. They gave you choices. So, if you know that, and if you realize the Strange was multi-genre anyway, then it, that's why it sticks, as a useful A for me.
I'm voting B. I think this is it's better than a C. It's exceptionally well at game prep. Not so much actual game time, so that knocks it down a slight peg. But it's fantastic, and like what Dean said, this deck, unlike the translation deck, isn't necessarily only for the Strange. You can always use concept ideas, so it's a great deck for game prep. But I gotta admit, guys, and this is my own personal thing. I think a lot of the older decks, just the name of the deck on every card, it's just not cutting it for me in this day and age with the way that the newer decks look. So I kind of vote on that. I don't know, the back part of each deck just looks like a common deck of cards with the same image. I kind of like it when it has a different image attached to it. So it's more useful than the translation deck for a Cypher System fan. So I'm voting a B.
Right. And like I said, yeah, just so everybody kind of get a clue, most of the time for me, decks are really, most of the time for me, more for prep. So I'm looking at it through the lens of a prepper, versus what I use at the table. There's only a few things that, like I said, I think I need at my table as far as decks are concerned. So that's, again, why for me it's an A. I look at it through the lens of being a prep. But, you guys said Bs, and so that's what it is. It's a B. What does the chat think?
So far, we have a B vote from Cat Hub.
I think it averages out to a B here with an A, B, and a C, and then another B. So we'll just throw it at B.
And I'll throw this out. There is a A or possibly S tier Strange deck. We just haven't got to
it. All right, moving along.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Let's go with the Ruin deck. And I would say, me personally, it's already up to B or A for that good random generation type thing. Again, I love that stuff. I mean, all the decks are for random generation, but this specifically helps fluff out like little areas you might not have expected your players to go or something, like ruins, right? So again, it's if you're playing any sort of game where they might come across anything resembling that, great. And most of the time, there is that sort of element in games.
What I really like about the Ruin deck, you see, I'm Toss. I think game prep, I think the Ruin deck is an S deck, right? I think if you're running any Numenera campaign and you're prepping for your system, I think the Ruin deck is a must-have deck, especially in a campaign format. As an actual game time, I don't think it's that useful that like if you're running Numenera, you're gonna be like, oh shit, I forgot my Ruin deck. Game cancel. I don't think it's that. So I'm tossed between A or B, and I think I'm gonna go B because I think that it's extremely useful in campaign format. It's extremely useful in prep, and it gives you a lot of cool ideas for prep. Like I said, it's probably an S tier deck, but I got a feeling that A is going to get crowded, so it's more like a B plus. So I'm gonna go B.
And I'm going to go B as well, only in the sense though, but I'm only going B in the sense that because the Ruin deck I've actually used the Ruin deck at the table, because it ended up being a situation where they ended up deciding to go underground and I had nothing built. I had nothing, and the reality of it is the Ruin deck is actually useful now that we have Godforsaken, now that we have, Gods of the Fall, things like that, where dungeon crawling, Path of the Planebreaker, where dungeon crawling becomes a thing. And it's easily reflavored into those genres. So definitely a B, but only because like I said, it just so happened I had it and it became like super useful in that moment. Because I probably would never use the Ruin deck, when I'm doing my prep. I'd much rather use the charts in Jay Colossus' book versus using the deck. And that's just me. That's just a personal thing, because like with the Ruin deck, what I liked about it was the fact that I could put those cards down and it literally made the path through the ruins. And it was something that they could, it became like a physical map that the players were going through. And it was cool because it was almost like using the Fog of War on a VTT, So that's one of the reasons why I really dig it. And, that's one of those decks that, anytime I'm running fantasy or something, I kind of have it around. I want it around because it becomes just in case.
I will say this about the Ruin deck, though. The Ruin deck does seem very Numenera specific. I'm not sure how well it works outside of Numenera, but what you're describing is hella cool.
It works. Well, for me, it worked great because it was a Path of the Planebreaker, and I used it on the Path of the Planebreaker game.
So where is this sitting at? A B for us, I think?
So
Yeah,
I said B. Set up said B. Wandering Drew said B.
All right, moving along. Cypher System NPC deck. And this is the older one, so no art like Anthony was saying before. So it instantly drops it down a bit because and he didn't go super into detail about what he was meaning. And in the newer decks, these decks have the details on one side, and instead of that plain back on the other side, they have the art of the thing on the other side, and that is a huge bonus in a physical game or whatever, because you're just showing them the thing. Like, you can describe it, sure, but visuals are always nice. The NPC is great for names, like I am MC is saying. That it is fantastic for that.
Anthony said it first, but I think we'll all agree that
this is either S or A, and I agree with you. I put it in the A because the later NPC decks are going to be S's to me. But I use the NPC deck all the time. I use it for game prep. I use it like Al says. If I need a random name of a Joe Schmo that may never appear again, I just grab one of these cards and pick a name out of there. It's so useful. The names are very diverse. It could cover multiple genres. So I love the NPC deck. And it gives you, not only does it give you a name, it gives you a full stat block with demeanor, how to role play the character. The NPC decks are phenomenal. I love the NPC decks.
Again, I agree. NPC deck flavor text is awesome. That particular deck is definitely an agreement with Anthony was saying about the later artwork. It would have been an S if there wasn't new ones, that we had to choose from. But the reason being is, again, that one, I don't even count that as a deck that I carried as just a staple. That's like always in a bag. I actually I bought a second deck for that reason. So it's always in my bag. So, what, like you said, for random name, random encounter, if you're, especially like if you're doing a tavern or a bar scene or something like that, it's great for that kind of stuff, an airport, train station, all of those type of things that it's invaluable, I'm
sorry, Dean. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Especially with the fact that the three of us are very improv, so we're not the type that want to write down every single NPC in the world. We're not trying to keep track of that person. And if it really becomes something cool, then, of course, you can make that mark, or whatever, and, highlight it. And that's okay. Now we know that this character is going to be a reoccurring NPC. But just for the random people of the world, you can't go wrong with the NPC deck.
I also think it's worth mentioning that this and perhaps the Strange deck so far, the only two decks that I see in my mind as doesn't have to be a Cypher System game. They're going to be useful in any role-playing game you're playing because you always need names and you always need weird ideas. So, like, even if you don't play the Cypher System but want to pick up some of the cool decks, these are two that will definitely be on your list. The NPC deck, definitely. If you're playing D20 Modern, you could use this deck.
Exactly. So, and it can be used. It can be system agnostic, really.
Yeah.
The NPC deck for sure is one that you could use for literally any game. Because I know you had said full stat block before, Anthony, but that's technically incorrect. There's no levels or I think even skills.
Yeah, there's no stat block.
It's just like fluff. It's all fluff.
Yeah, I might have misread. Instead of stats, I meant like it has a full description. Like it gives you demeanor of the characters.
Yeah, like personality, like unique trait, name.
Yeah.
I think it even gives you two different names, like a modernish name and like a fantasy-ish name. Like it's very fluffy, but it's quite good. Again, you can use it for anything. Like it doesn't have to be literally anything. I think that's solidly an A for us here. Let's move on. Data Sphere deck. That one's just been like highlighted to me. I actually have not looked at this one at all, so I'm gonna need y'all to chime in.
The Data Sphere deck falls into the same category as the Ruin deck. I'm gonna put it at a B. But what's cool about that is and the only reason, actually I would put it at a C because it's more genre specific for me, because it is like supposedly traversing the web and so on and so forth. It's a cyberpunk thing, and just with the fact that what's coming from Knights of Dust and Neon, that deck is going to be trumped now with the new Matrix deck that they got. I mean, that's going to be sick. So I'm going to put it at a solid C. It is useful. It is great if you're running a cyberpunk game or if you're running something that is, connected inside the web. It is so cool. I used it randomly in a couple of adventures right after Voices of the Datasphere came out and we got the deck. I think it's hella cool, but again, it's very specific to its genre. I mean, now again, you can branch out with just like with anything else, you can branch it out and reflavor it to do other things, but it's a solid C for me. And that's not me being mean or anything. That's just how much I'm going to use it.
It's a B for me because it's multi-purpose. Remember when I was saying, Dean was saying earlier, you could literally take the front part of these cards and place them out and build a map out. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily have to be for, it doesn't have to be utilized for Numenera. This is actually Monte Cook Games. Remember how Pathfinder used to have the tile cards? They used to build out a dungeon. These cards do the same exact thing. The front face of those cards do the same exact thing to build out a dungeon. I know it's very Tron, Datasphere, Numenera specific, like that realm of gameplay. On the other side of the card is the information it provides. But even if you're not using that, you could just use the front side of the card to build out a map.
This is true. I mean, and again, like Anthony was saying, it doesn't have to be that you're in a data sphere or whatever the case may be. You could use it to build modern city streets and a town or whatever. But it's a great deck. It really is a awesome deck to have in your toolkit.
I definitely voted a B.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to piggyback on the B here, even though I've never used or just from how you guys are describing it, and just from looking at the image there, even though again it has that very cyberpunk or whatever aesthetic. This would be great, and we kind of keep falling to the solo play where you're trying to just generate a map or something or a quick on the fly thing, and you need like corridors and whatever, and don't even really care about the information. You just need a simple quick map. Boom.
But that's really nice. Playing that specific style of Numenera game, it's an S. It's an S tier deck.
Well, it's an S if you're playing a Numenera game or if you're playing a cyberpunk game. It becomes an S again too, because it literally is just a data sphere. Though the data sphere, in the way they explain the data sphere, you can have eras within the data sphere, which is crazy, which I really dig about it. So, and the fact that Al keeps bringing up solo play, I don't do solo play. I probably need to try and do some. I'll revamp and say a B as well.
Does this deck actually has? I'm not sure it's a cyberpunk deck. I'm not sure it could be used for cyberpunk.
No. When I said that, the data sphere is the web, is the internet. So, and the way they describe the way they describe
it's like an aspect of cyberpunk. It's the net running, right? Because it's very specific.
That's why I said it's very, it's very useful for that, but. I'm going to change my vote to a B because I just had to think about it. You're right. I got to start thinking about solo play. And these decks for solo play really, if you're looking at solo, they probably all go up a rank. From where we're at, they go up a rank in solo play.
I mean, even disregarding solo play, like just being able to build a quick map on the fly is nice. Like you don't even again, regardless of the genre, just being able to just make a quick boop boop boop. Here's a mini dungeon or whatever. It's handy.
Yeah, I'm definitely not basing my vote according to solo play because one, I don't solo play, and two, I don't think most people watch our videos.
I will bring that up a lot, but I will again with the asterisk that all these decks are amazing for solo play, like all of them.
What I'm saying. That's my point. What I'm saying is all the decks. If I think about solo play, they get ranked up a little bit because they become that much more useful.
All right, so solidly a B then.
Yeah, that'll
I
be.
go to B. Anybody in the chat use a
I think we're solidly at a B. No one's really chimed in about this one.
Hey guys, Wandering Drew said he has to stop watching these streams. They're hard on his wallet.
I mean, it's rough. Let's move along. We'll go on with one I don't recognize too well. It just looks like a creature deck, though. Is this a newer Numenera creature deck, or is this an older one? But it looks like creature deck Numenera.
That's the old one, and that's the old creature deck, I think, and it looks
I
like
think that's the newer one. It has the artwork and
Oh yeah, you
with
can
the
see it
blue
here on the
background.
back. Yeah.
the older creature deck had art on the back too.
Oh.
I think that was the 1 and 2 set on the creature decks.
I'm looking at it close. That is the new one.
Yeah.
Either
'Cause
way,
the
it has
older-
art on it, so up to A.
Yeah.
The older one is more blue. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Creature decks.
Yeah,
really-
I think that's part of a 1 and 2 set, Al. Like that's a
Oh,
two setter.
Is it these two?
Yeah. And I personally think if you're running Numenera, these are A's, these are must-haves. Because
This one.
not only does it covers the majority of the creatures, has the up-to-date, has the prettier borders, has the really cool artwork on the front. Me personally, if I was carrying any Numenera creature decks, these would be the ones I would carry.
All right, so it's got me messed up here, right? So we'll again high up there, A, right? Not to get us like too off track, but I do see there's another creature deck, Numenera creature deck 2. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that one up here in A, because this is, I'm assuming it's these three that are like, I don't know. Is this an older one then?
The original one. One is the original one, and then one of them is, and then the other one is a two-parter.
Yeah.
Like Anthony was saying.
This looks like the two-parter here then. These two.
Yeah, that's a order.
And so, absolutely, with the creature decks are just good, like we said before, you know, because you can have your 10, 15 creatures that you know have to be encountered or a part of, you know, your major plot points. But again, the randomization of being able to pull, you know, something and not have to think of it on the fly is also great. And
But I will say this too, that the second Numenera creature deck, the 1-2 set, those came out after revised Cypher System Core came out. So they the way the stat blocks look are more in line with the way new stat blocks look. So that's why I said if I had a choice between the original or the up-to-date version, I'll take the up-to-date version.
And I was saying also, another thing I like about the creature decks, sometimes for me, it's just a picture on the other side. I don't even look at the stat block. I'll turn it into my own monster. I just use the picture. You know, I take inspiration from it because, again, they're just, you know, just to have that visual is always a plus, you know, no matter what you're doing.
I think what we're trying to say is that all the creature decks are hella cool.
And real quick, two things. First thing, someone in the chat, I'm gonna butcher the name, sorry, Variarte or Variart, says Numenera has 3 creatures deck. The first one has a booster. That might be why we're seeing 4 here.
Yeah.
One is a
The
booster.
lighter blue ones are the original ones, and the darker blue are the newer ones. I know that the second version of the creature decks are the ones that came out after the revised system, so they just look crisper.
Yeah, it should be these ones. But then the second thing is, because these are the new ones, do they go to S or are they still A? For you guys.
I think they're still an A for me because overall, you know, they're a useful tool, but I don't need them. But they are very, very useful.
I think, you might have convinced me. I think these might be S cards. They might be an S for me.
For me,
Because Numenera is the cash cow, and Numenera is the golden child. And if any creature deck will be S tier, will probably be the Numenera creature decks. So I think those will. And me personally, I think I'll probably vote S for those.
for me, it's like A plus because of what Dean said. Like, I don't need this. It's super cool. I don't need it. The creatures are probably the thing I make up the most myself. So creature decks, as cool as they are, I don't tend to carry them unless, like Dean said, the art. If the art is great, I would use the art and make up my own thing, or use the thing on the back if I can't make up my own thing. But the main thing with these is the art. The art.
Devil's advocate to that statement, though, Al, for a genre specific like Numenera, you will want to have some of the iconic Monte Cook design creatures.
That is true. Because people come into those games expecting to see, and again, I can't even name any of the iconic ones, but they want to see those.
The creature deck, maybe
iconic creatures. No, everybody knows the Sesky, you know. But I'm still sticking with my A. I mean.
So we have 1A, 1A plus 1S. Chat, what is the second Numenera creature deck to you?
I think it's, I mean, no one has really said anything, but I think it's solidly an A.
I mean,
it's definitely not going below A, so we can leave it there.
Not at all.
Hear me out. I am not disagreeing with what you said, Anthony, nor am I disagreeing with what you said.
Disagree with.
I'm just saying, it just, you know, good. It's good.
Pick something that
I don't pick what I don't recognize at all. What is this deck?
I'm picking the ones that we don't recognize. Let's do something that we.
Oh, that we know? All right, so the weird deck. There we go. That's what we all know. That is instantly up to at least A, probably S for me. I'm gonna drop it as S because it works in, again, this is again kind of a gray area. What you call it? Ketup mentioned at the beginning of the stream, he was wondering if we were gonna have the weird deck in here because it's not technically a Cypher System deck. It's not tied to any game at all. So yeah, it's on the list. We are putting it in the ranking, and yeah, I think because of its versatility, it has to be an S. It's so good.
For me, it's an S because for me it supports every other deck. You know, the weird deck, I want that with me like consistently. I love the weird book and the deck itself. You know, it just works in the sense of having it because you can always use it to infuse anything you're doing.
The weird deck for me is it's definitely an S deck because it's the ultimate improver's paradise deck. You know what I mean? And it's a deck that one of the few decks here that I could literally design a whole 4-hour session just from pulling cards from this deck. You know, you could come up with story concept, come up with villain, come up with venture plot and hooks. It's a fantastic tool, especially for the improver, especially for the low prep GM, which I happen to fall under both those categories. So me personally, it's definitely a S tier deck.
Yeah, it's solidly S. I don't see anyone arguing it, but yeah, and I mean in the chat, I mean the viewers. But yeah, I think this one just it's good.
Let me pick a deck, Al.
All right, which one?
Go to the Subtle Cypher deck.
Subtle Cypher, boom. That's
my first definite S tier deck.
Yeah, that is because. I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but I don't have as much to say as yours probably. But I will say with the Subtle Cypher deck, the reason that's up at S, a lot of people struggle with coming up with Subtle Cyphers. That's a question that comes up a lot when people are like learning the rules and learning like the intricacies of the quote unquote intricacies of the system. Subtle Cyphers come up a lot in that regard, that people don't really know how they work, how to flavor them, what to do about them. This solves that problem. Boom.
You know what I love about the Subtle Cypher deck? I think my favorite part of the Subtle Cypher deck is it's finally a tool for someone that isn't playing or playing Cypher System, but they're not playing fantastical fantasy or fantastical sci-fi. You want to just play a game grounded in reality, and you still want to use the Cypher concept. Right? The Subtle Cypher deck is for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's absolutely perfect for any modern game. You know, any game that's grounded fully in reality. You know, and it's good for great games. You know, it's good for fantastical games. you can use the subtle Cypher deck. Oh, hey, this magic potion gave you extra ability. What does it do? What does it do? Pull out the subtle Cypher deck. It allows you to do this. You know what I mean? It has so many applications beyond what it was originally intended for. That's a mark of a fantastic deck.
The subtle Cypher deck is definitely an S for me because it made my life easier in teaching people, especially when I was running superhero games, because I was using, you remember, I was using subtle ciphers before there were subtle ciphers, you know, for superhero games because, you know, your average super, unless you're a gadgeteer Batman type or something, you're not running around pulling out stuff out of your utility belt. Superheroes don't operate like that. So for me, it was the perfect way to basically translate that to people for them to understand, you know, this is, you know, him digging deep. This is intestinal fortitude. This is, you know, an insight, you know, all of those aspects. So yes, definitely an S. You can't go wrong with the subtle Cypher deck at all, as far as I'm concerned. I think that, you know, is something that you should have, whether you're running Numenera, you know, Strange, Predation, whatever. You should always have a subtle Cypher deck.
Variate said in the chat, I like that the number of each subtle Cypher deck matches the roll tables. So if you just shuffle the cards, you're literally just rolling the table. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I actually have not looked. I think that's one deck I haven't redeemed yet. I don't think I have this one.
You don't have the subtle Cypher
Is
deck?
this newer or older?
That's old.
Then I don't have it. Then I just straight up don't have it.
I
Damn.
mean, you have to redeem that because I'm pretty sure you got that from MCG.
No, was this like pre-revised or post-revised?
I think this was revised around that time.
This is definitely post-revised.
I should have it then. Damn, how do I not know if I have this one or not? That's messed up. I gotta organize my decks. All right, moving along. Solidly S here, I think. You want to pick one, Dean, or am I picking a random again?
You know what? Let's go with the tallest NPC deck.
Boom. I'll let you start elaborating on first.
The tallest NPC deck for me is also a solid A, for the simple fact that those characters can also be translated into other genres. They are but it is rich. As far as Tallest is concerned, it would definitely be an S because it's personalities from Tallest and so on and so forth. It also kind of gives you the insight and flavor of Tallest with characterization. So definitely an A for me.
This is S all the way. This is if we give it all the decks as a baseline A, right? For the creature, I mean, have you seen this deck? This shit is freaking beautiful.
It is.
Like each card has original artwork. For me personally, it works in any fantasy genre, right? It covers all the fantasy. So if you run a traditional fantasy, you don't have to run it in Tolus. But just visually, this is one of the prettiest decks that they ever produced. Look, I have an extra copy right here.
This is right in front of me.
Cut this bad boy open. You know why? Because the artwork was so freaking hot. I was like, I need two of these. I got the one that I got free from MCG, and then I bought one because the artwork on these cards are freaking gorgeous.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I actually have not looked at this one yet. I don't have it. I don't think I ever redeemed it. I don't know. Either way, though, with you, how you're saying the art is, and then just looking at the little preview image, it's not just like a character art. It has a background. It has like details. A lot of the other ones, like if you look at the creature decks, there's no backgrounds. It's just the object or the creature placed on a blank or white whatever background. These are full-on pieces, and that's amazing. That's really good.
And also, too, it has a wide array of fantasy races covered in this. I just love the Tolus NPC deck.
That's one of the things I was saying about the deck. And so when you show the card, Al, it literally is taking you into Tolus. You know, you are seeing people on the streets of Tullis, or in different places, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, it is very much an insight into Tullis. Um, and as for Tullis, it will definitely be an S. But overall, for me, like I said, it's an A because it is useful. It's useful across the board in that sense.
Mine is that it's definitely an A just because I think the NPC decks are A, but I think this is just the prettiest of the NPC decks, so that's why I made it an S.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I agree with you.
Yeah, and again, I'm siding with Anthony on this one. All the NPC creature, whatever decks are very useful, but when that art is very good, like you see on here with the backgrounds, and like Dean said, that's an excellent way to put it. It gives you a window into like the city, like whatever, right? And that's awesome. And yeah, that bumps it to S.
I mean, it's great for Tullis, but it's great for any. You can use it for Godforsaken, any of the fantasy realms, really.
You can use it, honestly, you can use it for a science fiction game. You can use it for a sci fantasy game. Those characters are that rich. And because Tullis is a kind of an industrial city, and if you think about it, Tullis has its own little weird science thing going on with chaos tech and so on and so forth. It definitely has a steampunkish vibe and so on and so forth. It is very much multifaceted in that respect.
Yeah, definitely a top tier deck though. Definitely.
Absolutely agree, 1000%.
All right, moving along. Let's go back to that one that you told me to skip. This one, I don't recognize this one at all. What is this deck?
Is that the Old Gods of Appalachia deck?
No, that's not Old God. That's Numenera for sure. It's so small. It looks like
that's the Numenera Cypher deck.
Is that the Cypher deck or the Artifact deck?
It's one of the two. I think you might be right. I think that's the Artifact deck.
Hold on, I'm gonna double check because I know I put the name of it on the chat. I'll just check our chat here.
Either way, this one goes up to B for me because of how specific it is. But I don't know this deck. I don't know how specific, like Numenera specific, these things are. So
that's the Cypher deck. There's two. There should be two versions of the Cypher deck.
Okay, so the Cypher deck. Oh yeah, there's the other one right there, Al. Yep. The Cypher deck is for Numenera. Numenera specific. As a Numenera, definitely an S, but overall, I'm going to put it at a B for me. Because again, I tend not to use Cypher decks the same way I tend not to use creature decks. But it's definitely a B for me.
It's an A for me. Once again, it's an A for me because one, I think it's the prettier of the Cypher decks. I love everything with the images on one side, and also it's Numenera specific as it was designed for Numenera, but a lot of those ciphers in there you could use for supers, you could use for sci-fi. Some of them you could use for fantasy if that's the only cipher deck that you have. I think this is definitely an A for me. Like it's either A or S tier to be quite honest. Because I think it's the prettiest of all the Cypher decks. And I know I've been saying that a lot, but I think visuals on decks are very important. Because one of the reasons why I use a deck is so I don't have to verbally describe what it looks like. So I love the decks that have the image. It looks like this. You know what I mean? And the Numenera Cypher deck, like what Dean said, it's S tier for Numenera for sure. But just to have in your collection, it can't be no lower than an A.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stick it, excuse me, to an A just because it's Numenera. It's very specific. But like Variarte said in chat, can be good in anything, but it does require some filtering. Just like most of these decks, you can like look through it and see what fits your game and just take those aside. But again, it's bumped up to an A for me. I initially thought B, then I got a good look at it and noticed what Anthony was saying about the art. Just anytime, like Anthony said, that the art is full on one side to show you what it is it's describing, is automatically jump up in tier. It's very good.
Yeah, see, and Cat Up said the same thing kind of that I was saying. Numenera Cypher deck can be used in other genres, but you need to do some mental gymnastics to do so. And he gave it a B as well. because it's good, but it's not useful in all game scenarios.
The art,
So we
man.
got 2 A's and 2 B's, so it's a B plus.
So should I put it in B or A?
Put it in A.
Yeah, I mean that art is good. Like even just the art
we'll
alone,
put
you
it
could just
in-
slide that
No,
across the
no,
table. Like
I think first of all, the majority of people that play Cypher System play Numenera. Let's just keep it a buck. And like the flagship game does have to have some like we can't be like if it was a dead game, like I don't want to say The Strange is dead, but if it was a game that isn't as popularly played, some of those decks might not have the traction and usage that the Numenera decks will have, right? And specifically the Cypher creature decks, I personally think if we went by like the amount of decks bought and sold, I think that this would be, the Cypher deck would be high up there.
As I said,
I
leave
agree
it
on
at
that.
A. It's a good deck. And again, I'm taking, not disputing, I'm just saying for me, we're ranking it by our taste. So.
Mm.
All right, Al, grab some of those XP decks. We need to get some.
yeah, I was saving XP off for the end. Yeah, that's like its own thing.
Strange creature deck.
Which was that? Is that this one?
Yeah.
That's gonna be.
You guys may disagree with me, but I think the strange creature deck is S tier. And let me explain why. Before the Cypher System creature deck with all the translations, this was my most commonly used creature deck. Because the strange creature deck has a wide, if you're not sure what genre you want to play, like you play a little bit of, straight up Cypher System, you play a little bit of Numenera, you play a little bit of all the white books, the strange deck actually has creatures that can cover all those bases in a pinch. That's why I personally think that the strange creature deck is an S tier deck.
I agree with your sentiment, but again, with it being the Strange is another weird one because again that dimension hopping, so it does cover a bunch of genres. But again, for me, I don't use creature decks much, so it's still an A for me. As versatile as it is.
All in the S tier, but me personally, I had the most usage out of that deck when not running the Strange, because I barely ran the Strange, but that was the only Strange deck, because I own every deck, right? I know Dean owns every deck because we get them from MCG, but that's one of the Strange decks that I actually used a lot.
Well, and again, I don't disagree with any of your sentiments, but as I said before, creature decks, creatures in general are visuals, because sometimes it's just the visual that I need, in order for the monster to come alive. And that's me. That's a personal thing. I'm gonna leave it at an A. But Anthony is absolutely right. The strange deck is absolutely and utterly versatile. The strange deck, like I said, as I've been spouting forever. Cypher System is just a Strange 2.0. It's just the Strange without all the lore, and without the estate, and without the gates and so on and so forth. So definitely an A, completely useful for everything.
Hey, can't help in chat. Mick said I put everything at an S. Can't help is becoming a new Eric Frankhouse. He's put everything at a B or a C. He's just a hater. That's a haterade.
Yeah, no, I think this is solidly an A. But your sentiments are good.
I think it'll go in the S tier, but I was just explaining why I think it can be argued in the S tier.
Your argument is sound. I agree with you 1,000%.
Alrighty.
Get this one over here on the end, top row on the NL. That's the weird deck.
This
We
one?
already did the weird deck.
I mean, not the weird. The Numenera weird deck.
No, that's the sight deck. You talking about the big one?
No, all the way on the opposite end. Same top row. That one right there. That's the Numenera
okay.
weird deck.
Yeah, I don't recognize this one. I do not recognize this one.
Oh, I recognize that one. That was quite useful for a long time for me with Numenera. And it's a solid B for me. because that was the whole injecting the weird. That was when that book came out and all of that. And it was the precursor to what we have in the book, The Weird, but it was more leaned into the science fantasy aspect, and bringing oddities and so on and so forth to the forefront. So that's why it's a B. But it is still hella useful if you don't have the weird deck, if you can't afford the weird deck, you can get that and adapt it easily.
Yeah, I would definitely put it in a B category as well. I never actually used this in an actual application to a game, but I did have fun reading it, like reading through the cards. I'm not. It's definitely not S or A tier to me because I don't really see him being as useful outside of Numenera like some of the other things.
Right.
So it's definitely B tier for me. I might even vote C, to be honest.
Yeah, I think for me also it would be BC. For me C because I don't play Numenera and I don't, there's other things to inject the weird, you know what I mean? So we putting this in B or C?
You both said BC. Kathy said BC. You said C. So put it in C.
Yeah, let's throw it in C. We don't have enough in C. We'll throw it down there. Next one. Is this just the deck box?
Yeah, the deck box.
Deck box.
But the deck box didn't come with decks in it, right?
No.
Yeah, but it came with card holders to travel with. You got individual cases like this that held your cards.
So I'm gonna be hella critical here and throw this in D tier. And I'm just gonna say why. These things, as nice of a concept as it was, they don't work properly. The slats don't fit in properly in the box or whatever, so they slide a lot, and yeah, it just
you have to do some home brewing.
Yes, so
you have to do some retooling of yourself.
You see, I was gonna say C, but Al has sound reasoning. He's actually right. And don't get me wrong, I actually own 3 of these because you get so many freaking cards. I own 3 deck boxes. But he's right. Those little plastic divider things, I wind up taking all those things out because they just didn't work.
Yep.
Yeah, I made my own dividers for my decks because, like you said, but it is nice to be able. It is the one nice thing about it is being able to grab that box and then having 4 different, you got 4 boxes in there. You could get 2 or 3 decks in each one of those boxes that's in there. So you could take a lot of stuff with you. So
and
for
it's
me,
a 30 box. The box itself is 30. Like the individual boxes that come in it and the box that holds these 4 boxes, all wrapped with Numenera artwork. It's hella cool. It's just that, yeah.
those dividers, like you said, I agree that if the dividers, if you didn't have to do some home jury rigging and so on and so forth, it would definitely be higher. But it is definitely a convenient place to keep your decks, especially to keep them safe and know that all your decks are in a place you don't worry about misplacing them. So
And it travels well because I was taking that whole box at one time.
yeah, I've
Times.
taken my box quite a few times to the game store.
Yeah, I will say that though, that just to have a positive in there, the boxes are very well. They're good. The art is nice. They're sturdy, but just the fact that you have to mess with it to make it work, quote unquote, the right way is kind of off-putting. But and I would also say this: if it came with a deck, it would also have bumped it up one. Like you have it would be a nice way to sell a deck and then also give you storage for your other ones.
It should have came with a unique XP deck. Specifically, that you could. No, I said it should have.
Oh yes, that would have been nice. Yes,
XP deck that you could only get from buying the box.
Yes, that would have bumped it up a tier or 2 for me. But as is, there's like Ket said in chat, I can buy deck boxes from my local game store for almost nothing, and they work great. So you can just get deck boxes from the store.
That was another thing too. That was pretty pricey, right?
I don't remember.
$20.
It was like $50, right? $40.
Oh, they're like 20. If I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
I bought one, but that was a long time ago.
I'm gonna look it up right now. I'm
I
right
bought
here.
two.
So
and I
while
got
he's
one for
looking
free.
that up, let's pull up the artifact deck. I don't know if this is Numenera specific.
Yeah, it's Numenera specific.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
looks
Numenera
like it
artifact
is.
deck. It's
Oh.
definitely, for me personally, it's a B tier deck.
Yeah,
It's
I was gonna say.
$29.99.
For me personally, it's a B tier deck. Because Numenera's artifacts are very specific to Numenera, and you might be able to use some for supers. You might be able to use some for like straight sci-fi, but it's one of the later decks, so it has the great artwork. It has the new formatting.
The artifact deck is
One in
not-
Numenera, it's a definitely, it might be an A tier deck as for usefulness, but if you're just doing it for straight Cypher System, it's a B tier deck for me.
I'll give it a B, but the Numenera deck, I mean, the artifact deck isn't a newer deck. It just had art. It was just one of the art decks that had art. It was just it was a one-off. That it had the art on one side and stats on the other.
Wasn't the artifact deck with the revised Numenera? Wasn't that part of that Kickstarter?
I don't think so. I mean, look.
Discovery and Destiny? I'm pretty sure it was.
Oh, it's not on our list here. Or of images you gave me. But yeah, I agree with the B because again, it's Numenera specific. It's nice to have artifacts. That is always a nice, because I think if there isn't another artifact deck, this might be the only artifact deck. Which, again, it's nice to have something other than what's not other than what's in the book, but what's in the book more accessible. Because at a table, you might want to distribute an artifact or two, and I feel like another reason it is in the B tier, and again, this might vary from game to game. I personally run mostly one shots and don't really give out a lot of artifacts. Right. It's mostly ciphers. Yeah, so it's not nearly as useful as the Cypher deck or the subtle Cypher deck or whatever. But yeah, that's why it's solidly a B for me.
Anthony,
the artifact deck are dope though.
The Numenera artifact deck came out 2016, so it's a much older deck.
Oh, okay. Wasn't there an artifact deck with the Discovery and Destiny though? I might have not pulled that.
There wasn't one with Discovery and Destiny. Because if you look at I'll look at the Kickstarter for that, and I'll tell you. But I'm quite sure I knew that wasn't a thing for that one.
Yeah, no, I don't recall any other artifact decks, but again, I don't really have all of them.
One of the advantages to being a walk-in library, things get stuck in my brain.
But while you're looking that up, I think we can say this one's solidly B, yeah?
Yes.
Yep.
Let's move along to the asset deck. Quite good. That's S or A for me.
S for me. You got when I do an S tier deck is can you use this in every Cypher System game, right? Or as many games as you possibly can. And the asset deck definitely falls under that. You could use the asset deck for all their traditional settings, the MCG setting lines, and you can use it for any freaking game you want to imagine. I love the asset deck. You can use the asset deck as inspiration for other role-playing games like D&D. You want to give somebody something cool in D&D, hey, it's a plus to your will roll. Just the asset deck is freaking phenomenal. It's probably one of the decks I use the most, hands down. It's S tier for me.
And just to put it in perspective for you, Ant, the Numenera Discovery and Destiny was 2017, and there was the IO deck, there was the third creature deck, there was the Ruin deck in there. So it was the Ruin deck, the IO deck, and the creature deck. Those were the decks that came, and that was in 2017. And I will agree that the asset deck is absolutely and utterly a useful tool. I don't think I used it as much as you did. You made some interesting arguments for it that made me reevaluate it. So yes, I will definitely give the asset deck an A.
How about you?
Solidly an S for me. It's too useful in too many situations. I mean, not too. You know what I mean? It's too good to put it in A. Is what I'm saying. It is incredibly useful.
Well, yeah, I
Yes.
think the asset deck, you know, you could use it as ciphers, right? You could use it as motivation for characters. You can use it in story design when you look at like giving villains what does my villain excel at, and pull 4 or 5 cards from the asset deck and make those permanent abilities on the villain. You know what I mean? There's so many cool ways you could use the asset deck. Variety, well, asset deck is a good way to get players to think outside their character only. Great for beginners. Make them aware of what they are capable of.
Right.
I love the asset deck. That was
like I said,
S tier decks going in.
I really wasn't. You remember, if you remember correctly, I really was the asset deck, whatever. But you really made me look at the asset deck in a whole nother light, and so I definitely.
You know, remember when I ran Cowboys versus Aliens? When I ran the Warriors, I didn't use.
He's frozen.
Oh,
You lost me?
oh no, you're back.
You're back.
I said when I ran the Warriors, Cowboys versus Aliens, I only used the asset deck. I didn't use ciphers at all.
Nice.
It's a testament to how powerful the deck is.
Yeah.
But yeah, solidly S with 2 S's and an A, I think.
Yep.
And an S from
Ken Huff gave it an S. Ken Huff gave it an S as well. So yeah, definitely an S.
All right, next one here.
Here's the strange Cypher deck right there.
That's actually what I was gonna pull. So I think that's actually A or S, because
A for me.
I like that it has multiple things on it. It's not just one. Like it has, I think, either 2 or 3 on there.
3, yeah.
Yeah, I just like having the variety available. Like, and again, because it's the strange, it covers a lot of different like genres or whatever dimensions. Yeah, so I really like this one.
And I think I can go with an S on that one as well, just because of what you just said, Al. The fact that it had multiple ciphers on one card really is really a step up. And I tend to like to use the strange cipher deck for random ciphers, you know, especially when I'm in a game, you know, or whatever, because it's bam, and then, you know, I can give out one card and give out ciphers to everybody at, you know, or multiple people. So yes.
I like the strange because once again, I think I said this with the creature deck, is more useful outside of just the genre, just the setting itself. So that always bump it up. I think I vote an A. The creature deck and the Cypher deck were both fantastic when it came to the strange. Not only was it useful for that setting, it was useful for multiple genres. So yeah, I will vote an A.
Yeah, I think we can solidly put that at A. Keta put a good thing in there. It's useful, but some of the cards are not all useful in all games. Well, excuse me, not cards are not. Whatever, you know what I mean. You might have to sort and split it, which again, not the end of the world, but it does create extra work when you have to sort through a deck. So, definitely a valid point.
Oh, we're running out of decks now.
Let's go with the Sites deck, because that's another one I know nothing about. Sites deck, y'all.
This deck has only been given to the backers yet. I don't think you can actually purchase this deck.
Right. It's not. It's up for pre-order, I think. But I will give that.
Oh,
deck,
am I frozen?
no. I'll give
I
that
think I'm
deck.
frozen.
No, you're not.
We might be frozen to him, but go on, Dean.
I'll give that deck a solid A. It is very Numenera specific, but it is hella cool. It is so cool and so useful to, just for, if you need a place, like we were saying about the Numenera, like we were saying about the NPC decks, giving you names and so forth. For Numenera, being able to have a site to begin on and so on and so forth, that is just hands down useful as all hell. I love it. I like it. You know, so I'm giving it an A. But and that's only because it is very Numenera specific.
Yeah, if this is what I think it is, and again, because I haven't seen it or know much about it, and how you described it, it's a thing with places in Numenera, like
Yep.
with so like again quite useful because you could reflavor them too. It's always nice to have like location cards or whatever. But the fact that it's Numenera specific brings us back to Ketup's most recent point that you might need to like split it or whatever, like go through it. But yeah, it's Numenera.
I think they're visually fantastic, beautiful cards. I would personally put it at a B, but I would like to see a Cypher System version of this deck for multiple genres. But if you're playing Numenera, it's a S tier deck because it's fantastic for your prep. But personally, I would probably put it at a B.
I mean, I
wouldn't argue with someone putting it at A though.
No, like I said, I put it at an A because there's not a lot of other information. It's a visual aid, and you know how much we like our visual aids, and that's why it's A for me. You know, because you can, you know, look, oh look, it's the steadfast. Oh look, it's the blight. Oh look, it, you know, so that part really works because again, it's another tool to draw you into the setting that theater of the mind, and that's the cool part about it for me.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
I think it's I voted B, but I think majority of people voted A, so it definitely should stay in A.
Yep, up to A. Let's pick another one. I don't recognize this one.
IO deck.
Well, that is super specific. I'm dropping it to C or D because it's so specific. And again, I'm not super versed. This is the one that tells you like the things that you can like scavenge or
Right.
yeah, that's solidly C or D for me because it's so specific.
I would probably definitely go with a. I would probably go with a B because again, we talk about it being for Numenera. I'd probably go with B, but if you guys say C, I can understand why it would be a C. But it
I
is
go C as well. And the reason being, not only is it Numenera specific, it's specific to a specific style of game play of Numenera. You know, like if you're not playing scavengers in Numenera, then how useful is this card going to actually be for you?
if
You know,
you're
like,
not using the salvage rules, if you're not using, and you know what? I'm sorry, I said the IO deck. That's the salvage deck. That's not the IO deck. That's the salvage deck. The IO deck has green markings on it.
Well, either way, still very specific.
Right.
It's gonna be a C for me.
Yeah, but the salvage deck is actually a lot of fun as well. But it can be used in a sense. You don't necessarily have to use it for like crafting or anything else. You can just use it for things that people find useful items as well. So it does have a little bit more of a broader expanse. If you're doing discovery, if you're playing discovery versus destiny, you can still use the salvage deck for that reason. The IO deck, on the other hand, would definitely. So I'm going to stick with a B for my rating for the salvage deck, but the IO deck would definitely be a C in my opinion.
I think both of those decks are C's.
Yeah,
Because it's so like linear,
Specific.
like how you can use them.
it's like Ketup said. Even in Numenera, it's not always used, and it's not useful elsewhere. That like breaks it down like to the T.
If you're running a game of scavengers, it's very useful. It becomes an S tier deck, but or doing a lot of crafting, a game where everyone's crafting. But
Like I said, for salvage, I say a B. For IO, I say a C. And the only reason I say that is because again, salvaging, doesn't even have that. You're living in a post-apocalyptic world. You're always finding things. You're discovering things. So salvage things that you can use to build, even if you're not using the crafting rules that are in Discovery and Destiny. That's my thought process.
all right, what's next?
Old Gods Resource Deck. I don't know anything about this one either. What is a resource?
Let me look at. I actually haven't opened up my old guy's resource deck. It's sitting over there, but I haven't opened it.
No.
So
Okay.
no,
You
I
gonna
was
say
just
something else?
no, I was just gonna say with it being so specific, it defaults to a B for me because again, it's for a specific setting. I will say though that since we're talking about the resource decks, I'm gonna pull up the we have the planar resource deck, and I would instantly put this a tier above it because plane breaker has multiple dimensions, has multiple applications, and again, I still don't know exactly what's in the resources deck. That's just going based on how they're presented. Again, with the multiple dimensions, that
Actually,
instantly is
I'm
more.
open Plane Breaker resource deck right here.
And yeah, with Old Gods one being so specific, I would
Okay,
drop that down to a B.
so I'm gonna back that up. Yes, it is old gods specific, but old gods to me has multiple applications because it kind of draws you into a more modern time, even though it's kind of genre specific with a horror aspect. But the resource deck for old gods, it says brings to your fingertips a convenient, easy way to access ciphers, artifacts, and creatures. So for me, that would probably make it a solid B. You know, only because it's genre specific, but the fact that there's ciphers, artifacts, creatures, and NPCs, and then it says and more.
So
Um,
it's basically
the
just
resource deck, it's essentially it gives you like magic items. It's like a deck of many things, but to pull for randomization. I personally think it's an A deck. I think both of them are A decks because you could utilize it in so many different ways.
Here's a cool
Okay.
one. I would just say, like, if you look at the one thing, they have one card showing you apple head dials, not yours. Level 1 form cloth dial with a carved dried apple uses. Sears the hand of the dial for the next day. All equipment within short range of the dial will be protected. Stuff like that. Then they show another card that's just nothing but artwork. Then they got a third card that they're showing that has character names on it. So I think I'm with Anthony on that. That actually does go up a level. That goes to an A. So that
And it's
actually
the same exact thing with the what you call the path
the
of the
plane
plane breaker
breaker.
deck.
Yeah, the plane breaker
I
sort of.
have one right here. It gives you spells,
Yep.
like random spells you could use. It gives you creatures you could use. It gives you magic items, ciphers, artifacts.
let me ask you this question. All those are different cards, right? Like they're not sorted in it. So that again, we're solidly at the A now. That actually brings it to a B for me, right? Because when I'm looking for inspiration, I'm looking for inspiration for a specific thing like ciphers or equipment or whatever, right? So with these decks, I would have to go through and sort them into the piles of the things that I want them in. So that being said, again, sounds quite useful, but again, if me B, I don't like that.
You understand your point on that, but the reason why I vote for A is I'm a sucker for everything with like artwork for each individual piece, and both of these have those.
Again, that's a good aspect, but we have other things for art too. Like if
Like I
we're talking
said,
about art, lots of things have art.
I'm definitely in the A camp because I do like the fact that there's multiple aspects. That's a multi-useful deck. I like that. I like the fact that I can pick up one deck and get lots of things out of it.
And also too, let's keep it real too. Old Gods of Appalachia is not only for that setting. That's any horror, any Cthulhu, any modern. A lot of that stuff could be used outside of all. Path of the Plane Breaker is a little more like restricted to the genre, but Old Gods, I think it has a wider array of applications that it could be used outside of that setting.
Neat. I actually thought it would have been the other way around. That's interesting.
Very Arte said, sounds like Old God's deck is like a genre booster deck. That sounds great. That's literally what it is. That's what I look at both of them as. That both resource decks, because I had looked at Path of the Plane Breaker. But so with that being said, I think both decks are definitely A's, and just for that reason, for the reason that I can, use them for multiple things. I'm not stuck, I don't feel beholden to the setting that it was created for.
All right, what else we got?
Definitely agree there, though. Only got a couple left. Let's go with the GM Intrusion deck. That's gonna go up there for me for sure. That's always good to have. Yeah, S tier for sure. Even with the lack of art, as we were saying, is a huge plus on these cards. But again, you get looks like 3 per card, right? Something like that. I don't know if each card has 3 or if it's just some of them, but there's multiple things on each card. And GM Intruders are always good to have. What? Go ahead.
I said it's great for prep, great for actually pull a card during gameplay. Want to give a player intrusions. It covers all the bases. It's one of the decks that it was like one of my first decks. So I tend to use those things a lot. I used them more in actual prep than I used in like during the game, but I did use them for ideas. So it's an S tier for me.
That particular intrusion deck that's the Cypher System intrusion deck.
Yeah.
Which, yes, and I would definitely say that it is an S tier for me as well. I've actually used that deck more to sit around and just go through and look at it to get my mind looking at intrusions, flavors, and ideas and ways to, implement an intrusion. And it does kind of give you like different ways, a combat style intrusion and an environmental, a social, it gives you all of those things on the cards. So it really, was very helpful in that sense for me to help me start visualizing how to do intrusions. I don't think I've ever used it at a table, but I will pull it out periodically and when I'm just sitting watching TV, or not really watching TV, and play with cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely a very, very nice deck.
I am MC said one of the first decks I brought will always use for player rolling 1.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's a good way to use
useful. And then, we're solidly S on this, I'm guessing, yes?
What, man?
We're solidly on S for this, yes?
Yeah, S for sure.
And then the last deck we have here, aside from the XP decks, is the Cypher System creature deck. I think that's A tier. Just like all the other ones, it has good art, it has the creature stats, but again, me as a creature, I like to make up my own creatures. So again, for the art, that's why it's up there with the A, because even if you don't use the stats in the back, you have nice art.
Yeah, it's either S or A for me. I'm a sucker. I think all the Cypher System, the ones that are multiple genre, tend to be S tier decks for me. So if any creature deck would make it to the S tier, I think this would be the deck out of all the creature decks that would make it to the S tier. So I want to lean S.
Did we get all the Did we get the Cypher System NPC deck?
Yeah, it's A tier.
Okay. Just like them to make sure. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you guys.
You agree? We both rolled it differently, so who do you agree with?
I agree with you, Anthony. It's an S.
Oh.
So we'll throw it in S tier. It's like you said, the Cypher System ones always get a little extra plus because they're so versatile. So even though it's an A for me, it's an A plus. So I definitely can see why y'all put it in S. Yeah, it's like kind of like saying like I don't really use them a super lot, but I see how they are very useful to people in general. So that's why it's up there. But me personally, it's like most of the time it's lower. But
you know what? You don't have to use them to draw randomly, though. You know what? Sometimes I do. Say I'm using a creature from the book, even if I'm changing what the creature does. I always check the creature decks and say, hey, do I have an image of this creature? Or do I have the card? So, like, even if I'm not using it, like for a random draw, I'm still using the cards because I'll have the card instead of having the book or looking up the page in the book.
Right. Well, and that's one of the reasons why I like it. I love the images that are there so I can show the people what they're up against. Because most of the time I'll probably show you the card and I'll have the PDF open so I can look at, my creature anyway, if I'm using the creature as is on the card.
Definitely agree with that there.
All right, now I think this is the point where we're going to argue about that we have the XP cards. We have the Cypher System XP cards, the Old Gods XP cards, the Strange XP cards, the Numenera XP cards. I think I put the Numenera XP card twice.
Yeah, you did. That was on there twice, so ignore one of these. I don't know how to remove it. But what you call it? The Cypher System ones, instantly D tier. The old ones, because the new ones, they've kicked it up a notch like a lot.
Put the strange ones there too. They go for D as well.
No, I would say those are C because they're prettier. Like those are aesthetically more pleasing. Yeah, the Cypher System ones are just solid colors with some lines on it. The strange ones, we got some texture in, we got some like nice effects. But again, still C tier compared to the other ones.
You don't have the early Numenera ones on there either.
Those would be D tier probably also. I would say, because I don't even know what those look like. I can't even picture them in my head.
No, yes, there's only one right answer for XP cards.
So they all go to S tier.
No,
I mean, personally, well, listen to my explanation. They all go to S tier because I think you should always have them, right? But all the art is so good and varied, then it just comes down to which one should I pick, because you're obviously going to have a favorite style or whatever. But personally speaking, they should all be up there because the art is really good. Like, again, but I could be wrong on that because, again, this is just opinion at this point.
And see, for me, the cards, those cards, the XP cards, unfortunately have become less useful, even with the beautiful artwork. I'll put them all at an A for me, and the reason why I say that is because I've gotten into the habit of using other objects for XP. Like when I run my fantasy games, I have these.
They're going to MCB sponsorship.
Right, but I understand that. No. They're solid A's, and like I said, but I just have gotten to the point where I like to use, I like to use props.
I want to go to
the chat is echoing your sentiment, though.
They go to A, except for the Numenera ones. The Numenera ones are freaking fantastic looking.
Yeah, I actually just adjusted it to reflect that because those ones are actually a step above.
I don't even think it's close, Al.
Yeah, no. Looking at them like here,
the Numenera ones is hands down the best looking XP card, in my opinion. Those things are freaking awesome looking.
Have you opened up the new ones that were exclusive for us for the Kickstarter?
Yeah.
I haven't.
I actually have them in a box somewhere over here.
But yeah, looking at the Numenera ones, the newer ones, they're like.
Yeah, we were talking about the resource deck. I have them here too.
But with these, the Numenera, the newer ones, if you play Magic the Gathering or any trading card game or whatever, there's usually variants of cards that are like full art cards or what they're called or whatever. This is basically the full art XP card. Like all the other ones have frames or something. This is just straight up like, here's the whole thing. Like,
well, I'm gonna say this.
Oh yeah, the artwork on the hologram exclusive edition cards are freaking awesome too.
The new exclusive cards are pretty.
Hey, hologram, Al. You like hologram?
Yeah, holos. Yeah.
These are foil and hologram, so these are pretty damn solid too.
I don't think I've redeemed those yet.
In a game, though. I really want to use these in a game. I'll be scared people freaking mess them up.
Oh, no, I'm gonna put these in sleeves. These are definitely going in sleeves, and and I'm gonna probably sit them down in front of you, okay, and tell people just tap it if you want to use it.
What you call it?
I got so many decks over here that I still have to put away.
Yeah.
Me too.
I have the resource deck too. Right here.
Yeah, mine are. I got a stack of decks that I haven't even opened up yet.
But yeah, I think our tier list is pretty solid. I think this is
Yeah,
pretty good.
I definitely agree with putting the Numenera XP cards in the S tier.
Oh no, yeah, they're so gorgeous compared to the other ones. They need to, like Variate was saying in chat. I wish the new Cypher XP cards were of environments from all the different genres rather than of creatures. That would have been stellar. I haven't seen the new Cypher XP cards. What happened?
It looks like all the creatures are humanoid creatures too. They could have,
Varied it
like,
up,
got a
yeah.
little more variety.
Yeah, so it is what it is, but that would maybe down the line they'll see this video and they'll see how we're raving about the full art cards, and they'll give us some full art environment XP card, because the XP card is one of the easiest ones to just give us straight up art. Like the XP could just be like the Numenera one here, where it's like in a corner, like a tiny corner.
I'll be honest, you know what cards I use at cons? Is I don't use any of these. I use the ones that Sean K. Reynolds gave us, the Cypher Unlimited.
Oh yeah, the special ones.
Those are in my those stay in my little file folder decks. I use those all the time.
Yeah, this is my brown bag for
yeah, I guess we have a specialty one of a kind, or I guess three of a kind XP deck.
Anthony, look that bag up again.
You told me this bag years ago.
Yeah, mine are still in there. My XP cards are still in my bag.
You bought me this bag like 5 years ago.
Yeah, for Gen Con 2018.
When we Gen Con, I got those bags for all of us. We all got one.
I still have mine. Like, it's literally like right here.
That's the bag I use for cons.
I literally is. It's right here. Like, all my shit is still in here. Like, before we start, I gotta see if my deck actually is in here, just writing stuff. I still have it.
That other set of XP cards that they have with the exclusive art on it also is nice. The ones that have like the ghost images. Remember that deck?
Is that the one we got as like a goodie bag thing?
Yeah.
Honestly, if I'm running a game, I'd rather just use the XP cards, the ones that we have in the D list, because I don't want people to fuck up by it. Like the cards with the artwork on it, the collector means like I want to just sleeve them up or leave them in a box.
Brother,
I don't want them to get damaged.
Yeah, sleeve them.
A lot of stuff. Again, that's why we were saying before. A lot of stuff we have double copies of. But yeah, those XP cards are like absolutely gorgeous.
And yeah, I'm gonna save this tier list image and put it on this Discord server. Maybe people will chime in. We'll have a little discussion about it. But yeah, I think this tier list came out pretty solid. I think it's hilarious. The D tier. It's just the D tier is hilarious. It's just the oldest XP card, not the oldest, but the most plainest ones, and then the deck boxes. Like all the decks are pretty useful in their own right, which is what we're saying here, what we're getting at. Even if it's minimally.
How many of you guys use the 4 XP cards as actual 4 XP?
Oh, I don't think I've ever had a use for the 4 XP card. But again, I don't do campaigns, so.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I haven't done.
And even after a session, like, aren't you like, yo, give me my cards back?
Well, and that's the thing. Unless, and the only time that comes in handy, like the one game I run, I usually keep all the characters, and I would put a paper clip, and I would paper clip their XP to their sheet. But other than that, I agree with you guys. The 4 XP. I think that's why they got away from giving us cards with 4 XP on them, or even numbers, because some of the art cards just don't even. They just say XP.
But when we had every week gaming group, I was part of that group. But we were playing D&D. Every time it was a big group, right? I had like 7 players. Every time I gave them the option to take their character sheet home or whatever it is, because I had how D&D had the spell cards. These motherfuckers would lose them shits all the time. You remember, like, hey, Here's the spell cards.
I do remember. I was not one of those people
The next
though.
week, no, I forgot my spell cards. Oh, I lost those spell cards.
Like I said, when
So now I'm like, anytime I give somebody, I'm like, yeah, I need it back at the end of the session.
I've literally gotten in a habit, if I run any campaigns, even my short campaigns, you know, my 6-12 episode things, I always collect character sheets now.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
I think Javier still has my druid spell card somewhere in his house.
That's mad funny.
so,
But yeah,
so guys, at the end of the day, are you guys happy with our list the way it looks? I mean,
yeah, satisfied.
I think it pretty much went the way like a lot of decks. First of all, I don't think any of these decks, for the exception of the XP cards, are needed for in-person gaming.
right?
But they really fun to have. So and the S and A tier decks can be great for prep, great for actual in-game play. So I'm happy with all this.
Yeah.
Most
And
definitely.
I look at it this way. You know, we do have as we can see, A has the most, but again, that's because those are all the decks that have multiple uses. They are very, very, you know, they're very good. You know, some of them are genre specific, but
Still
allow
versatile.
yeah.
We might have to revisit the ranking the books because I think it's been 2 years since we did it.
Well, I would say we should rank the books. Let's wait till we get It's Only Magic, and then that way we can, you know, do a full full gamut. At least when we get the PDF, then we can do it. Because I think personally, I think that I think we should just do one for the white books. I don't even think we should do all the books. Let's do a white book session.
Yeah, we can definitely do rank the white books. There's only six though. So it'll be a short video.
Either way,
we need to talk a little bit more. We still have not done what we said we were going to do and talk about the mini settings in all the white books. I think that is something we should visit.
but that is for the future. This video has gone pretty well. Chat is saying they agree, or excuse me, specifically don't disagree with what we have. But yeah, I think this is a very solid list. And just as a, I don't know, if you haven't looked at these decks, definitely go into the MTG shop, take a look, because even though again some of these are very setting specific, a lot of them are super versatile that you can use them for, like, if you're gonna look at any, look at all the S tier ones. They are phenomenal.
And also, if you play Numenera, I know that some of the Numenera decks aren't rated as high because they're very Numenera specific, but for Numenera, they're fantastic.
Correct.
Yeah, well, I mean, anything that's built for that particular genre, you know, if you're running that genre, definitely, you know, or that setting, because the strange, I can say the same thing about the strange ones. Strange ones are hella useful for running the strange, or that type of conceptualization of a game, you know. And Ted Up said he 90% agrees with what we chose.
All right. Yeah, once again, guys, if you haven't joined the Cypher Unlimited Discord, please do, because you could get into the meme competition that's coming back, and there's going to be a quarterly winner. Go in there and check the meme room now and see all the past winners. And like we said earlier, it's $100 gift card for MCG, so you got to be in it to win it. Just give it a shot. It's coming back very soon. Hopefully today we'll reopen the channel for everyone to start posting memes again. I think I want to run something Saturday. So if you want to play with me, just hit me up on the Cypher Unlimited Discord. And I have no idea what I'm gonna run, but we could use the character generator, generate some characters, and we'll play something on the fly on Saturday. So if you're interested, if you're watching this on or just hit me up on Discord, and yeah, let's game Saturday.
Also,
I'm with the server.
Also, I'm going to be at a local convention this Saturday, college convention, gaming convention, and I'm going to try to get things situated and set up and record a couple of demo sessions, and maybe if I can get them recorded, I'll get them to
What's the name of the convention so they could go to?
Oh, if you're in the local area, it's UbiCon. It's from April 26th through the 29th. So it's Friday,
Buffalo,
Saturday.
New York?
Yep, Buffalo, New York. UbiCon. It's University of Buffalo convention. So it's college convention, big cosplay, Nerf war. I just ordered 1,000 rounds for my Nerf gun because I'm going to be going to the Nerf war after gaming. But so I'm going to try to get that recorded. Maybe get some demos thrown out there so we have something to throw on, or at least portions of it, that we can throw up on Cypher Unlimited as well. So look forward to that as well.
If you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monte Cook Games. We have the largest fan-run Discord server for everything MCG. If Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. That's where we got the idea for this video today. Not as many members, but still great conversations being had there daily. If you want to support us financially in any way, you could give us a little donation on Ko-fi. It helps us out with running conventions and setting up a bunch of other cool stuff like giveaways. Give us a follow here on Twitch, or subscribe here on Twitch, or like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. We're still trying to grow both platforms as big as we can, and any help with that matter would be greatly appreciated. Or go to our online store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch like the shirt Dean got on or the hat I got on. And yes, CypherCon is coming, and yes, we're going to have brand new CypherCon merch. We didn't even talk about CypherCon, so join the Cypher Unlimited Discord or the Facebook group to get more information on that. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. It's been a blast as usual. Hopefully you'll go out and check out some of these decks, especially the S tier ones, and we will post a tier list on the Discord if you want to relook at it. Yeah, so thank you all. Thank you guys for coming on. I don't know why I'm thanking y'all like y'all guests, but thank you anyway. And yeah, as usual, from us at the CU, we will see you later.